Um, I'm going to talk about the law of sacrifice, giving something of great value in order to gain something of greater value. And what I do for this is myself for myself. A lot of people, they're like, "Oh, I'll give up time with family, or I'll give up what's it called? Listening to music, or I'll give up, you know, et cetera, et cetera." But for me, I like to think that, just for me, but I like to just use it for everything, myself for myself. Um, which means I'll give up time with my family. I'll give up time with my friends. I'll give up time for myself. Um, in order to work hard, plan, build, you know, um, because, and this is a cold way of thinking about things, but it's the honest truth. In the end of the day, um, I will die alone. You know, facts that I I I come to terms with myself is that I will die alone. There's about 8 billion people in this world. Um, and if someone doesn't acknowledge my existence, then why should I acknowledge theirs? And at the same time, I'm on a rock floating in the middle of of a dark space, you know. So the only thing I can do is just exist, and whoever's in my circle, be appreciative of those moments that I will have with them until they stop happening. You know, um, like of course I have uh one brother, and um I love him. You know, that is I would cherish the memories I've had over the years with him. Um, but we are just not the same anymore, you know, and that's another thing too is once something has happened, you know, it can never be undone. You can forgive it, but everything's different from there on, and it's how you go about things after that. For me, over the years, uh, well, like, I want to say, like, when I was like 20, like, 22, I had this thing where, like, if I hated someone, I hated you. But then I realized that how much energy that took to do that for a person, and I'm gonna be remembering this person this way for the rest of my life, like, and I'm gonna carry this. Like, no, there's no gain from that. So the best way to do is that you let go of whatever had happened, and but you don't have to associate with that person, and you don't have to, you know, if you see that person and they acknowledge you and you know, hey, how you doing? That's that, but that's it. That's as far as it goes. You don't have to hang out with this person. You don't have to associate with this person. And that's something that you know um keeps me at a good peace. You know, and I practice that on a daily basis. I may not agree with you. I may not like you. I may not, but in the end of the day, you are a person, and I will acknowledge that. Um, and so you know, you have that, and the amount of relationships that I've been in, it's just more of like, you know, you're always going to find another. And I'm not saying this is an excuse to be a hoe or to like, go, no, but it's the fact that if something is not for you, do not settle for less. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going on physical attributes or emotional attributes or, like, again, whatever is not for you. So for me, it's if there's no stability, if there's no respect, if there's no trust, in any type of form of communication, I don't want it, you know? Um, and, stability, it doesn't have to, it is part, financial is a good part of it. And it has to be, the person has to be independently stable. Um, but, it's also on like stability in state of mind. You know what I'm saying? Um, knowing when to pick your battles and knowing when, you know, uh, uh, where you are in your life. None of this I'm still figuring out, because of course I understand the journey, but none of this like, I'm still trying to figure out, you know, where I'm going to put my priorities to, where I'm going to know. See, because your priorities are your responsibilities, and that's what's going to lift you. You don't need subscriptions to, YouTube Premium, even though I don't know why people pay for that. Just go through the ad or skip through it if it gives you the option. Hulu, Netflix, and all that stuff. You sacrifice that. You sacrifice that. Just go on websites and watch things. Like, to be honest. But yeah, you sacrifice that. Going out when you don't have enough, sacrifice that. You know, friends that are not providing anything for you, and in terms of like, mental growth or productivity, sacrifice that. A relationship that's not, motivating you to be a better person, sacrifice it. You know what I'm saying? Untrustworthy partner, sacrifice it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and most of these things will break you, but that is the point, because, it's repaired, you know? Um, and some things I could agree it's, if broken, it's hard, because there are things in my life that like will follow follow me, and I am so uncomfortable with, you know. Um, I'm so uncomfortable with the feeling of the memory of those things and those people. But the only thing I can do is just move forward and you know, uh, you know, be in better positions than I were before, and not surround not surround myself with people like that, or be cautious, you know. Um, and you know, and this is the thing, like, what's funny is that if certain people do listen to this, I don't have to mention names. The funny thing is, they're gonna already think that I'm thinking about them. Automatically, in their mind, they will think that I'm thinking about them, and that's between you and yourself. You know, um, Because who knows, maybe I'm not talking about those people, you know? But yeah, they'll be thinking about that. Um that sounds so funny. You think I'm talking about you? Damn. You know, go outside and walk to the corner and walk back to your house. Do something with yourself, bro. But no, I'm not. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about that person. You're funny. But yeah, that's just it. Like, I all I can do is just exist and sacrifice what isn't good for me and appreciate, you know, everything that has led me to this very moment and work harder, you know. Um, a thing in my what I want is peace, you know. Um and to some that may sound so vague, but you know, peace could be a stable household, a family, um a wife, you know. And I get it. People will be like, well, isn't a wife and a family is sometimes it's not the same thing, because sometimes a wife can't bear children, or even to adopt. That'd be nice too. Like, a lot of people in my life think that, like, oh, you're very cold, you're very heartless. No, I got a big heart. I'm just not going to share it with you, because how temporary you can be, you know? Um because here's the thing. If you are that person, you'd be that person. You would be that person, not me. You would be that person, you know? You would be that person to show me, hey, I'm here. Hey, you're going through something. I'll be your anchor. You know what I'm saying? What's it called? What's it called? No problem, bro. I'm there. Fuck that. Call out of work. You know what? All right. Don't call out of work, but I better see you tomorrow, you know, and we're going to talk. We're going to hang out. And you know what I'm saying? You know, I don't expect people to show up for me, you know, which I'm not saying for the ones that have. I'm not uh just acknowledging that. All I'm saying is that, like, the expectations are low, cuz I'll show up, you know, till when there's no reason to anymore, you know. But with other people, it's just more of like, you called it before the play was even made. You know what I'm saying? You just recognize the patterns, which it's crazy, cuz like, my closest friends, you know, they keep me amazed every day. You know, I it's not that they don't have their patterns, but they have their patterns with their own lives. They don't have patterns with our friendship. You know what I'm saying? They have patterns as individuals in their own lives that they're doing themselves, But within our friendship, there's no patterns other than the whole, texting thing and but there's no patterns in the terms of like, you know, because it always feels like we just saw each other yesterday. And it's a beautiful feeling, you know. Um and when you and that's the thing, cuz at that point the only thing that could switch up is the individual or you, in terms of like, you know, something that's out of character, that fits the patterns that you can't agree with, you know. Obviously we're different people, we have different mindsets and everything like that, but when that time comes, when it's revealed, the unfortunate thing is letting go. And sacrifice, as much as that hurts, as much as it, sacrifice. I am not gonna I am not gonna disturb my peace just to keep a friendship going that did me wrong, or a relationship. I'm going to have self-respect. Don't get me wrong. Deep down, I am hurting. I love you. And I am so disturbed, you know what I'm saying, that emotionally I want to fight for us. But I can't. Because in the long run, I need to do what's best for me. And sometimes it may feel like my life will be lonely because of that. Because I chose me. If it were to be selfish, it'd be like, was if it yeah, it's funny, I can't even think of it, because like, me being selfish is like saying everything that I do is transactional with a person. Nothing's emotional. I'm with this person because of their social status. I'm with this person because they do something for me, and then I'm going to ride that till the wheels fall off, kind of thing. That's selfish. That is selfish. Versus how I feel is that, like, I hope that we last, till I die. I want us to be forever. I appreciate and acknowledge your existence like you wouldn't believe. I am so glad and amazed that you are real in my life. And to some people, because those words aren't being spoken to them, they feel like, oh, this person doesn't give a fuck about me, or this person doesn't care. And the example I have, the saying that I have is, if my words, right, if my actions aren't loud enough, what makes you think my words will make any difference? If my actions aren't loud enough, what makes you think my words will be any different? you know, and it's crazy. It's crazy, and that's really tough. Um, it's really tough, and yeah, and that's why sacrificing is very important. Um, because at that point you're just hoarding, you know, things, and it's gonna annoy you. And when you start to have something that's brand new, you don't have any more room for that experience, because this old experience is just fucking jabbing at you and jabbing at you. You know? Um and it's hard. It'll be harder to let go. You know? It's easy within that moment to just let go and love that memory and cherish that memory. But you have to have that discipline to just, like, no. And you know, it sucks too, because like there's people out there that I love, and from time to time, you know, I'd send them a reel or two, which I'm breaking the rules of, you know, of myself to be like, you know, like reach out. And part of me just doesn't want to talk, but I miss them so much. But I can't, because I feel that they're so happy without me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love them so much. I love them from afar. And, you know, I want them to be happy. You know, because they're not in my life the way they were and the way I would want them to be. And I can't be in their life the way they want me to be. You know. So, you know, emotionally just exile myself. And, you know, a lot of people sound like, damn, that sounds like dramatic. And it's the fact that, like, you're still choosing your peace. You're still choosing your peace. You know, some people can't live with the fact that, like, they're not that option anymore. Some people can't live with the fact that they can't be that close as a family member, as a friend, as a partner, you know. So the only thing you can do is just, again, love and appreciate from afar, you know. And again, it all just follows under that law of sacrifice, of something, to give something of great value in order to attain something of greater value. And in that case, the greatest thing, at least in my opinion, the greatest thing you can choose is yourself. Until that changes, you know, for me, it's myself. And then until I have, you know, a kid, then there you go. Because I'm aiming for that. You know, just to put that out there. I'm aiming for that. I'm aiming to be the best version of myself. As retarded as that sounds, And I say that because in the end of the day, it's so fucking overused that I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be. If you're not willing to sacrifice, then how are you going to be the best version of yourself? You know, for me, I was able to build something from the ground up and see it through to the end. When odds were against me and people telling me that you're stupid, you're dumb, you don't know what you're doing. I didn't know anything in business. I just went out there and did it. I was homeless, and ended up getting my own place. You know what I'm saying? And what's it called? Being in charge of a dying business to bring it up to a good standard and model till the owners couldn't just do it anymore. Because um, my predecessors didn't do exactly what they were supposed to do, and I had to clean up their entire mess. And to brokering a deal between two business owners, and I'm not even in real estate. And people were like, okay, what are you talking about here? What is all this? Because in the end of the day, when I have my kid, I could tell them, hey, look, your father did it with whatever he learned, went out to do, and did it. And you can do the exact same thing, but better and in your way. If you can pass that, if I could pass that down to my kid or the next generation, that is great. That is great. Because, everything holds you back that you don't let go, that you don't sacrifice. And the bigger picture is my future. Not me personally, but the next generation of either, who I meet or my own family that I start. And that's what fuels me. That's what drives me. That's why I want the friends that see. This is the thing too. Like, these are the standards that I have. If you can't be a person that my kid can't be around, then I don't want you in my life. If you can't be a stable person, if we were to have a family where you're tripping out over little things, and I mean like I'm not talking about like parking spaces, or I'm not talking about taking the wrong exits, or no, I'm talking about if you're gonna trip over about me forgetting groceries at the grocery store, or something like where I forgot to take out the trash, then and you can't just simply ask, hey, can you take out the trash? Or, hey, can you hey, you forgot this, can you go pick up at the store? You know what I'm saying? Then what the hell? I've had a relationship, one of my relationships I had for 5 years, and we've only had two major arguments for 5 years. We've had our agree to disagree moments, but then in the end of the day, we came down to where we sat down and talked about it, and we kind of just squashed the beef right there. I didn't want to cause her any drama. I didn't want to cause her anything. As long as she came to me and talked, and there you go. Only two major arguments, or two or three, you know, and that's it. But that, like, that really set the standards for my relationships moving forward. You know, um, and each relationship was a growth. You know, my most recent relationship ended because, you know, I they're like, oh, you always talk about legacy. You always talk about legacy. I said, because to a man or to a person with common sense, they understand that legacy is everything. What you leave behind for someone to be inspired by, some like the knowledge you leave behind, you know, or the footprint, it is something valuable, you know, because you're remembered, you know, either by the item or by the name. And you know, her thing was, but you work at a hotel. Meanwhile, she was around everything that I was doing. My own production, my own production, my team, you know, the business that I was running, the things that I was doing, and every all these people that respected me, or even if they didn't like me, they still fucking respected me. And she has the audacity to say that. Like, and that just showed me that this person doesn't acknowledge or appreciate me. She only sees the outside. She doesn't see the inside. And I let her go. I told her, I'm not the guy. I'm not the one you are looking for. And I have to go. This is over. You know? And you know what sucks is that her and I, when we were together, I felt calm. I felt good. I felt at peace. You know? But, you know, when it came down to, you know, and her family liked me, but when it came down to her friends, and see, and this is the thing too, you can take a trip to like Thailand, you know, Japan, Mexico, whatever. I'll see, like, okay, I'll see you next week, you know. That's it. Have fun, go do you, but like I'm not going to be a jealous guy. Cuz in the end of the day, when you do something, then you're out of my life. You're out. You are out. You know, you just showed me that I can't trust you. You just showed me that you're not for me. You proved me right. Because in my mind, trust me, I know you can betray me. I know how the world is out there when you step outside that door. So you cannot tell me that I'm going to take a trip and, you know, if some guy is going to kiss you, that's it. Versus, you know, like if we go out and I see somebody hitting on you, and if I don't see you pushing them away, if I don't see you pushing them away and say, hey, like, please, I have a boyfriend pointing at me, like, handle yourself. Because you're a grown ass adult. You're a grown ass woman. Handle yourself. If you can't, then hey, I'll find someone that can. I'll find someone that can handle themselves and treat this relationship seriously. You know, and that just shows like you can't have time for that shit. You know, and so that relationship, as good as it was, you know, and this is the thing. She was like, "Oh, guys are intimidated by what I do and who I am and what I've done." I said, "That's great. That's good. That's cool." "Oh, I have 2 houses and I make this a year and everything." That's cool. That's all you though. That is all you. That has nothing to do with me. That is your success. That is you. I'm proud of you. If that's what you want to hear, I am very proud of you. Although you should be doing that for yourself. You should be that person for you. You know, it's crazy that if you're not that person for you, then what the fuck are you doing? But that's good. You know, she's like, this one guy was like, "Oh, so what are we going to do with our house?" Or this other guy was like, disappointed that he makes less than her. And I'm just like, yeah, but I'm not those people. You know, I am not like, I have my own apartment, I have a car, and I have 2 good jobs. I have benefits and what's it called? Uh good insurance. You know what I'm saying? It gets me by. I am content. I'm not looking to compete. I just want someone that I can enjoy my life with and build. You know, but it was difficult because, and she said it too, how come you don't get jealous? Well, is there a reason for me to? I already have you. And why would I need to compete? You know, like, I love you, love, but understand that there's 8 billion people in this world. It's fucking, it's going to be it's going to be hard to put myself out there again because amount of energy and effort it's going to take, but someone out there will love me. But you had to understand that I'm with you. And that should be enough. And if that's not enough, then god damn, that is crazy. You know? I don't expect relationships to be fucking easy. I don't expect them to, they're not supposed to be, dude. But the understanding is what makes it easy and bearable. You know? You had a hard day at work, come home and I'll massage your feet. I'll take off your shoes and massage your feet. Wash my hands and cook you dinner. You don't gotta do nothing, girl. Just sit there, watch Love Island, fucking just here's a little snack. Here's a little fruit snack while I'm cooking. That's it, dude. You know, But yeah, you had to be able to sacrifice, you know, like, and like I said, deep down, emotionally, of course, I think about people, but you know, what can I do? It's a two-way street here, you know, and of and you know what, you know, people are going to be like, oh, he doesn't give a fuck, or he doesn't care and everything. Well, that just shows who you are and where your mind is at, you know. Because again, I read your playbook. I read your playbook. You let other people influence our relationship, whether it be a family, whether it be friendship, whether it be fucking relationship. You let other people, instead of you just fucking talking to me. And at the same time, the fact that we're not talking anymore, then ask yourself, just ask, hey, Peter, what happened? Don't live the rest of your life with those feelings. Let them go. You know? And so, yeah, that's just it. And then, success, it's a lonely ass journey, you know. And you have to know where you've had success, because success also, there's a thing. I don't know if I talked about it in the last podcast or last episode, but I saw this thing about this guy talking about Mount Everest and climbing, that mountain. And uh people who died, there's this thing on Mount Everest called Rainbow Valley, and there's no markers. The markers are the people who died on there because of their color coats, right? And again, you can climb up the mountain, but make the climb, and if wherever you feel like you want to come down, you come down. You know, because each top of the mountain is the bottom of the next. So let's say you are born, and then after you are at your first day of school, and then after that you're in elementary, middle school, high school, and now you enter life, as in like responsibilities and everything, and you're in college. You are and you entered life, and you're in college, because you don't just enter life before high school. Some people do. Some people do, to be honest. If you ever had if you ever have a hard life, or you decide to fucking start grinding at that age, then there you go. But some people, there's life and college, or just life, right? And then now you need to figure out where your successions be, where you start that, or you start a family, or you start that, or you start a business, or you start life, or you start a job. You know what I'm saying? or you start life and you're homeless. Each one of those is a beginning of the next mountain, because you go from homeless to a good job or a decent job. You go from a job to marriage, from a business owner to nothing. You know what I'm saying? But each one you got to take on. Each mountain is a climb. You're not climbing one single mountain. You got to see yourself climbing multiple, and take in whatever victories you can to boost that experience and live life as an experience. Don't live it as like, oh man, this is my life. Because here's the thing, right? I would say I have a good amount of experience, right? Where in a situation, I of life experience, I've been put in situations and I'll be like, hey, look, try this, do that. You know what I'm saying? I've done something similar. This is where this is at. Right? Versus someone. Wow, this is gonna be retarded because I just lost my train of thought, and this is going to go up regardless. This is gonna go up regardless. I just lost my train of thought. I know when I re-listen to this, I'm gonna hate it, and then because I tell people to roast me in the comments, this is gonna man. Oh, there you go. I just remembered. Okay. So, there's that. But I'm not going to say, because the life experiences, you got to take it all as information. But I'm not going to say like this is my life, where my life is a a dark comedy or anything like I'm not going to stick to that. To be funny, of course. Or to describe something, of course. But to actually take seriously, where someone's like, because through examples, right? Because your life could change all the time. One time, I had told a little personal, but I had told this woman one time to take a plan B, right? Because of a situation her and I were in. And in the sense that she because she was already in a relationship, and I didn't feel comfortable after with because to just be flat, the idea sounded funny, but then after the reality, it was serious. And it was like, hey, look, take this plan B. Like, no. And she's like, no, it's okay. I got it at home. I said, no, take it. Take it. And I was telling her, one, having a kid and for someone else to raise your kid, that's crazy. That's crazy. The joke at the time was KGB baby. You know what I'm saying? Sleeper baby. And then but then it was like you start thinking about it and you're just like, hey, like I don't want someone else raising my kid. Um what if later on in life I want to, and it's gonna I can't live with that, you know? And I'm not trying to make myself sound like the good guy. All I'm saying is that, like, or I'm not trying to defend myself or anything or put the blame. It's just more of like, hey, like, I'm realizing that I am wrong here. I am doing something wrong. And we need to stop this. You need to stop this. You got to do this. No, it's fine. It's fine. Like my life, I grew up poor. It wasn't the easiest, and it wasn't, and I get it. I was a kid. My dad was the one that was going through all this shit, but seeing how all that was, and how hard my life in working, not in the sense like, oh, my life is, no, I'm not complaining about it. All I'm saying is that it's like this bloodline is fucking is difficult. And all I'm scared is that my kid is going to be out of place. And at the same time, I'm not looking to be fucking John Redcorn. If you get that reference, then great. You know what I'm saying? You're cultured. If you don't, then damn, you just made me feel old. But like, what's it called? That I don't want to be that. I am that, but I don't want to. I don't want to be the part where he's a secret father to this person, and he doesn't, like, he has no connection with this kid, and this other kid, it has the same mental capacity as this guy who's not his father, and but thinks that person is his dad, and doesn't know that the other guy's his dad, even though they look exactly alike. I don't want my kids being raised by someone else. And so, that wasn't respected. She still went through it, and even though, because she had a miscarriage, and I think I talked about this shit too in the last podcast also. But like I said, that thing fucked me up. It's gonna stay with me for like a good, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn, something I'm gonna be talking about, to myself, because like that shit sucks. That shit sucks. And so I wasn't there. This person was there, and he went through that experience with her, and when she came to tell me about it, I what do you want me to do? What I told you to take the Plan B pill. I told you. You almost died. That was you. What do I do? How do I like, and it's not funny, but it's when you have a life of like it just becomes maddeningly funny in a crazy way, where you're just laughing at the fact that this is it's your it's you are at fault, and you can't do anything about it. It's out of your control, and you are responsible. And like, and that's it. You know, um, and these are life lessons. These are life lessons, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, you're like, well, okay, well, where are you going on about all this? Where, in the sense that, like, my life can be tragic at times, can be tragic at times, can be dramatic, can be funny, can be like, but I'm not going to designate it to one thing, because in the end of the day, it always changes. You know, for the sake of conversation, of course, you can say, oh, my life is like this. My life is, you know, just to be sarcastically funny about it, or, you know, just to, you know, in a small nutshell of a description. But to say that it's permanently like that, or it constantly changes, and you have to be open to the idea of that, because if you just keep it as one thing, then it's always going to be that one thing. You know, life isn't always tragic. It's beautiful. You know, I would say, going through that experience, you know, I wouldn't want to go through that again. And it really set high standards to where I have to be a better person in terms of my morality and what I do, how I do things, you know. Um, you know, it taught me that I don't want to go through that again. You know, and so, you know, it was, you had to sacrifice, you know, and that sacrifice was tough. They were twins. And the next one after that was also crazy too. But yeah, you know, you just you gotta you sacrifice yourself for yourself. You are already great, but you want to be greater, and you got to put yourself through things to reshape, you know, your thinking, to reshape who you are and how you experience life. Um, so yeah, law of sacrifice, you know, very important, you know, in self growth, and growth in general, and what's it called, and business, you know. In the comments section, you know what to do, you know, rip me up, tear me apart, whatever. Hey yo. No, but yeah, in the comments section, it's free for whatever you want to say. I appreciate you guys sticking around through the end of this video. you know, it's just me venting, rambling. And again, a lot of things might be repeated, and you know, in the end, this is just for me to talk. You know, you don't have to listen to this. The fact that you do, I appreciate it, and you know what, just shows that you getting to know me a little more. You know, um, but yeah, that's just it. Um, thank you, and have a great day. Take care of yourself.